Hey there everybody, it's Friday the 12th of February 2010. I'm Hal.
And I'm Josh, and welcome to Friend Codes Suck.
So hi everybody, as we said on Monday, I think it was, the Friday segment of the show is going to be an independent and in-depth review of a game that's sort of been released in the last 6 months. Quite a significant release, otherwise we wouldn't buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna... Oh, never mind, go.
Okay, yeah, and this week, I am going to review Mass Effect 2, and Josh is going to sit here and look pretty.
Well, they won't see me, but yes.
Exactly.
I'll sit here and look pretty.
So, yeah. So, anyway, the story of Mass Effect 2 picks off pretty much exactly straight away after the events of Mass Effect 1, just after your character, Commander Shepard, defeats Sovereign, Saren, and stops the invasion of the Reapers. Anyone who hasn't played Mass Effect 1, sorry for the spoilers, that concludes you, Josh, you suck.
Yeah, no, I've never played Mass Effect 1. Well, I've played it, but not for more than 20 minutes, so...
Yeah. So, the main enemies of Mass Effect 1, the Geth, at this point have been reduced to small galaxies spanned across the galaxy, and any confrontation with them has been reduced to small skirmishes and battles over ground.
Did you just say small galaxies across the galaxy?
They're small colonies across the galaxy.
Oh, I thought you said galaxy. Okay, because that would sound really retarded.
Yeah, small galaxies across the galaxy. Anyway, yeah. So, on one of these small particular routine missions, Commander Shepard and his ship, the Starship Normandy, from the first game, come under attack from an unknown enemy. And this enemy is all-powerful and shit. It's like being hit in the face by God. During this, the Normandy is destroyed, and everyone escapes, except Commander Shepard, who is reportedly killed. 2 years later, Commander Shepard wakes up to a room filled with unfamiliar faces and walls brandished with the Cerberus logo, a faction that's very briefly encountered in the first game. It turns out, while Commander Shepard has been out of action, human colonies across the galaxy have been abducted and are disappearing without a trace, with no clues of by whom or how.
Or what.
Or what.
Or when.
Or why. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Cerberus, being a pro-human organization, intend to do something about this, as the Council, you might know from the first game, won't dip their fingers in only human matters. And to help this, they've rebuilt Commander Shepard from scratch. Apparently he was just like...
What?
Apparently it was just like lungs and floating goo and stuff. They've rebuilt him entirely from that just to get his help. Lols.
That's really creepy, I gotta tell you what.
Yeah? We don't actually...
I heard about him being like a friggin' robot or some shit like that.
It's kind of something like that. I won't go into any more detail. He's all there, except they sort of put little electronic bits in there. When you watch the intro, it will make sense.
Right.
But I won't go into more detail of the plot line.
You don't want to give away too much now, do we, Hal?
No. So, shall we move on to gameplay?
Yes. I have no idea.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
So, gameplay hasn't changed that much from Mass Effect, the first game. Mass Effect, the first game.
Which is too bad, too, because, did they change the combat at all?
Yes. One thing they have, the company has reportedly tackled quite a lot is the combat. It's a hell of a lot more fluid. It's, in fact, quite more heavily combat-orientated. The RPG elements have been a bit suppressed, and the combat has been tweaked so much that there's a new cover system, there's a new ammo system. In the first game, when you shoot a gun too much, it overloads and you have to wait an amount of time before you can fire again. In this game, there's...
I actually thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too. I don't really like the new system. It kind of... that system made it apart from everything else. This is kind of just another... Even right down to the button you press to reload is exactly the same. Yeah. So, anyway, So yeah, there's a hell of a lot more combat, and the combat is refined a little better. The cover system works for a change, and and all of your allies, the people on your team, they sort of do what you tell them to, as opposed to sort of.
Oh yeah, I heard that the the AI system for that was so much better in this game.
Although on the lower difficulties, you will end up finding yourself in a firefight, your friends sort of charging ahead, unless you keep them back, and they will pretty much die instantly, and that means you'll be left on your own to pick up the pieces before they can come back to life and, have a party and get some beer and pull. Yeah. So the graphics are quite a major step up from the first game. Everything still has got the same look, the same feel, the same theme, the same motifs and that kind of thing. But there's a hell of a lot more detail in the armor, in the clothes, in the face, that kind of thing. There's no more of there's no more texture popping when in the start of a cutscene where there's no textures, and then about 30 seconds in, his face appears. There's none of that. The crappy shadows from the first game have gone. They've completely redone that. They've redone the lighting. They've pretty much redone everything, but they've managed to keep the initial feel of the first game and just sort of made it a hell of a lot better.
One thing I have to ask you though, Hal.
Yes.
The elevators.
Yes! The elevators, there are no more elevators.
What? I heard there were elevators, that they weren't much different.
Really?
That's what I've heard.
No, the elevators.
I've never played the game, so I wouldn't know.
Well, in the first game, obviously they're the infamous elevators where you just sort of walk into a small square room and they stand still for about 30 seconds. Those sort of times are still there, but instead of just watching your team stand there and have a brief conversation, it comes up this sort of data screen, and it shows, like, from a distance of, like, a schematic of the building that the elevator is in.
Cool.
It's kind of cool. But then
it's
again,
more interesting to look at.
But they've also done that in the first game when you had the Mako landing. It's sort of the Normandy farting it out, and it sort of flies down. In the first game, in this game, you've now got the same sort of screen, and it's not quite so interesting. You feel kind of a bit cheated by it. Because instead of seeing like a pretty animation of a landing craft landing on a planet, you just see this sort of data up there, and then all of a sudden your character's just stood on the planet. Thanks for that face, Josh. Another gameplay element that's been changed for Mass Effect 2 is the space travel. It's been tweaked a bit. In the first game, do you remember in the first game the galaxy map?
No.
Well, basically, it was just you sort of had a cursor that you scrolled over the planets and the systems and stuff like that, and it's quite cool. But they've updated it in the second game where you actually have a little ship that you control around the galaxy map, and you sort of trundle along between the different planets and then between the different galaxies, and you actually burn fuel, and when you get to an unexplored planet, instead of just sort of hovering in the outside and getting a list of menus, you actually actively scan the planet for resources and then send a probe down to pick it up, which is quite cool. Can get a bit repetitive, but it's quite cool. So yeah. What else is there to talk about?
I don't know. That sounds like that sounds like it, really.
There is one last thing. Obviously, it's been advertised quite a lot. There is a chance at the start of the game to transfer your old save file from the first game into the second game, and this influences sort of your decisions in the first game influence minor plot lines in the second game. For instance, if you
everybody you met in the first game, basically knows you in the second one. Yeah,
and so like if a character died in the first game, they're not there in the second game, and if you got jiggy with one of the characters, you'll still jiggy in the next game. Yo, yeah.
What about a rating for the out of 10? What would you give it?
Out of 10, I'd give it an 8. It's an all-round, it's a really good game. The one thing I have an issue with it, after playing some of the games on the PS3, it's not quite up to scratch. It's still quite glitchy. It's still the graphics aren't the best I've seen on the Xbox. It's
Well, you can't compare Xbox to PS3
no,
in the graphics department.
no, definitely not. But as far as the Xbox games go, it's a great game. It's long. It's got an amazing story. It's a great improvement from the first game, and so I'd give it a good 8 out of 10.
Well, sounds good.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about it.
And next week we don't have any plans yet, but I know for a fact that I will be more active with the review because we'll do something that we both played or
do you want to?
Played.
Yeah. So we for the next review, how about you do a game that you've played that I haven't?
I will probably do that. Yeah. So I'll be more active next week.
Yeah. Okay. So see you guys later.